To develop any skill, it's important to train at the challenging level. In other words, pushing just beyond your current abilities. Researchers have various terms for this. Anders Ericsson calls it deliberate practice, Robert Björk uses the term desirable difficulty, and Guadagnoli and Lee refers to it as the challenge point framework. According to neuroscientist Andrew Huberman, making mistakes is vital for triggering neuroplasticity, which is the term for the brain's ability to adapt and change to experiences. Mistakes activate key brain areas and release neurotransmitters like adrenaline and acetylcholine. When you finally succeed after repeated errors, dopamine reinforces the neural pathways involved, strengthening your learning. Björk emphasizes two ways to create desirable difficulty: spacing and variation. Spacing means breaking practice into shorter, spaced out sessions rather than doing it all at once. For example, instead of one 60-minute service session, you could do 6 10-minute service sessions, spread out over the week. Variation refers to mixing up practice types like random versus block training that I have spoken about. This improves long-term learning. Deliberate practice, as Ericsson defines it, involves stepping outside of your comfort zone, focusing on weaknesses, and repeating challenging tasks until you improve. It might sound obvious to say that training should be challenging and include mistakes, but many players prefer drills where the ball goes back and forth reliably, where they avoid errors. You might not believe this, but I know players at the highest level that quit drills out of frustration with mistakes. This happened when I was practicing with them. This is counterproductive. The brain is most open to learning during challenging situations and after making errors, so giving up teaches the brain to avoid tough moments rather than embracing growth opportunities. As I have said in previous clips, there is a difference between performance during the session and learning. Often when we make exercises more difficult, the performance during the session will go down, but it will lead to better learning that gets retained and that can be transferred. Therefore, we need to feel okay about not performing at our peak during sessions. We need to be okay with making mistakes. To do easy regular drills where the ball goes over the net many times doesn't create any signals in our brain that something needs to change. So instead of repetitive, predictable drills, training should push players slightly beyond their abilities. As Trevor Regan explains, a jungle tiger learns survival skills in the wild, while a zoo tiger living comfortably never has to develop those abilities. Similarly, players must train in environments that challenge them to adapt and improve. Changing your perspective can make you react differently in situations. If you're making mistakes during training and feel frustrated, you can remind yourself that making mistakes are opportunities for growth. Saying to yourself that this isn't going well, but I know mistakes are essential and that I now have an opportunity for learning and growth. Now it's important that I stay focused and get in a lot of repetitions, can help shift your mindset and make it easier to continue pushing through tough moments in practice. This is called framing within psychology. Finally, it's important to avoid training at a level that's too easy or too hard. If the task is too difficult, learning and motivation will suffer. To implement this idea in a group where the level of players vary a lot can sometimes be tricky. Practical approach that I'd recommend is to adjust the starting positions or tasks to make the exercise challenging for all players. For example, a weaker player can start with an advantage in a rally. The better player then gets put under pressure and needs to find solutions to turn the bad position in the rally around and win the point. That means that both players practice at a challenging level. I also think we should move away from repetitive drills and introduce more variation, and also encourage players to develop effective shots that are difficult for our training partners to deal with. So that was it for this video. I hope it inspires you to embrace challenges, and I'll see you for the next clip.